On July 29, 2023, the Japanese American National Museum hosted an event in the Tateuchi Democracy Forum called Beyond the Dugout, a discussion with Japanese American staff at the Los Angeles Dodgers. The event was a lively and inspirational Q&A with the Dodgers World Series champion manager Dave Roberts, play-by-play broadcaster Steven Nelson, Senior Director of Team Travel Scott Akasaki, Director of Integrative Baseball Performance, Emily Fragapani, and Manager of Performance Operations, Will Ireton. The event was a celebration of Japanese and Japanese American contribution to the Dodgers, as well as baseball as a whole in the modern era. Baseball has always had a strong presence and influence in the Japanese American community. Japan had embraced baseball as far back as the 1800s, so many Japanese immigrants in the U.S. had a family history of enjoying and playing the sport. During World War II, when people of Japanese ancestry were imprisoned in American concentration camps, many camps, including Hart Mountain and Manzanar, had their own baseball teams. The sport was an outlet for prisoners who were forcibly removed from their homes. Despite immense talent in the prison communities, the inmates' detained status prevented them from achieving major league success during wartime. Fast forward over 80 years later, and players and staffers of Japanese descent have helped make Major League Baseball in the U.S. the successful sport it is today. Players like Hideo Nomo, Masanori Murakami, Norihiro Nakamura, Yu Darvish, Kenta Maeda, and Shohei Ohtani are just a few of many renowned MLB players of Japanese ancestry who have graced the All-American pastime. Among these players is Dave Roberts, who played for the Dodgers from 2002 to 2004 and is now the manager who led them to a World Series championship win in 2020. Roberts is half black, half Japanese, and spoke about his role as a biracial public figure in baseball.
As far as being biracial, I feel the sense of responsibility that I've got to do things the right way because a lot of people are counting on me. And so I definitely don't consider myself a pioneer. I think I do a good job of trying to stay in the moment every day, whether it's a good thing or bad thing. I don't look back. I don't kind of contextualize what I've done or what I potentially could do. It's always about we, and it's always about this moment. But I will say that every day, I feel that if I don't do things the right way, Asian Americans, Japanese Americans, however you want to categorize it, African Americans, minorities, whatever you want to say, will be affected in some way. So I think that it's a burden, it's a responsibility, it's something I certainly embrace.
Steven Nelson, who is also half Japanese, was the only Asian American play-by-play broadcaster working for a major league team upon joining the Dodgers in January of 2023. He felt Roberts played a role in his new position.
You have to have people in positions of power who are advocating for Japanese Americans, Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, people of color in general. And I say that to get to Doc because you were that for me. I do not have this job, I don't think, without the support of Dave behind the scenes.
Scott Akasaki, Senior Director of Team Travel for the Dodgers, has a profound relationship with the Japanese American National Museum, as his parents were imprisoned in American concentration camps during World War II.
My mom and her family, they went to the Buddhist temple across the way, where this museum stands. And so my parents were in camp. My mom was 1 and my dad was 5. So growing up, Japanese American history has been a huge part of my life. I was an intern here at the museum. And so having that throughout my life has never been forgotten. And so when I started working for the Dodgers about 20 plus years ago, it was always something that I carried with me.
Director of Integrative Baseball Performance, Emily Fragapani, spoke on the uniqueness of being a woman, and specifically a woman of color, in the male-dominated MLB. She grew up in a mostly white community and was encouraged by her parents and Japanese grandmother to always be herself.
The number of women in baseball has increased exponentially along with women. of women of color and just generally representation in baseball. In terms of, where I would like things to go, I think having the representation, the more visible representation is great, and it really helps you see that it's a possibility that's there for you. What I hope for the future is continuing to see that grow in positions where maybe it's non-traditional positions, but where you see that there are places that you can be and that you can go that are impactful, right? And so that's why it's great to see Jing in this position, but to see that we can have not just a place, but also an impact on the sport and where it goes.
Will Ireton joined the Dodgers in 2016 as the interpreter for Japanese pitcher Kenta Maeda. He was born and raised in Japan and is now the Dodgers' manager of performance operations. He says Japanese culture has influenced the way he approaches his work on the team.
I think in our Japanese culture, we talk about reading the room, and I think that's a value that's not really preached exactly in this country. I think in baseball, we talk about that, like reading the room and just being aware of the people in the room, where they're at mentally. I think that's something that really helped me navigate this workspace, and just my work environment.
The conversation encompassed topics from scouting Japanese and other minority players to the league, to the history of players of Japanese ancestry in the MLB, and everything in between. The need to continue to include minority players in the game was a highlight of the talk, and Roberts himself had much to say about his role as a prominent biracial figure to minority communities in the U.S.
I just saw myself as a baseball guy, a team that's managing a great franchise, and that was my role. But it quickly changed into social issues, and I've certainly stayed out of the political realm, but the social issues on life and what's right. And I realized really quickly that I had a platform, and it kind of goes back to the responsibility of advocating on what's right and what's not right. And so, the Asian hate crimes, that could be my mom, my aunts and uncles, and I've been victim of it. And so, I've kind of embraced that responsibility again to speak up and not just be silent. And there's ramifications and people that I have to answer to, but I think in certain things that I just believe so strongly that it supersedes just my job, because my job is to speak on what I believe, and I gotta be, as Emily said, you gotta be true to yourself. And so I manage the Dodgers, but that's not who I am. And so when I do get opportunities to speak up and sound off, I have been more vocal.